This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
I love what she does and the insight that she brings and the healing that comes from it. As somebody who gives us insight on the lymphatic system in our bodies, such a misunderstood, underrated system in our body that really cleans us out in terms of waste, potentially toxins and all of that. And she practices massage to get that done. So great to have her back with us. Ann Boone is on the program. By the way, today we're going to talk about your nervous system and how it connects with the lymphatic system. Hello, Ann. How you doing?
I'm great, Steve. It's good to be here again. How are you doing today?
Very well, very well. And my first thought here, as soon as I knew that we were going to talk about this today, is how if you're challenged by stress and things like that going on in your life and we all do from time to time, it's got to compromise your lymphatic system and your immunity overall, I would imagine, right?
Well, you think about something as simple as studying for a test or studying for finals, that kind of a thing. And we just push and push and push. We get up to that point, we get through our finals, and that's when we get sick. And that's not unusual with the lymphatic system either, as the nervous system really influences the lymphatic system with regards to movement of the lymphatic fluid, your immune response, and general inflammation in your body.
So, and this is top of mind right now because I have a friend that got sick last week, and we all do. This kind of hit her harder, and it was a virus. She went to the doctor. She went bowling, so she kind of suspects that that's where she picked it up, with a bowling ball, etc. She has no voice at the moment. The virus has, hit that. She had stomach issues, whatever. She's doing fine though. She's doing okay. Just worried about being contagious around people. But I wonder, for somebody like that in that situation, what's going on with their lymphatic system during a cold or some kind of a virus?
Well, so as I mentioned before, the beginning of the lymphatic system begins peripherally, out in the hands, feet, that type of thing, and things we breathe in, things we eat. Just like you say with the bowling ball, she probably touched the bowling ball, put her fingers in there, rubbed her face, that type of thing. So once a virus, a bacteria, something enters the system, it goes through the vascular system, then the venous system, and that's pushed out into that interstitial space. The lymphatic system starts to pick up whatever's going on there and takes it to the nodes, and the nodes then say, oh, guys, we have a virus here, we have a bacteria here, get all hands on deck, let's do it. So how the nervous system can affect that is that even though the nervous system works with muscles to tell muscles how to work and what they should do, when they should relax, when they should work, the lymphatic system has valves that help control the flow of lymph. So when our nervous system is not working at optimum relaxation, rest, and digest, so the autonomic nervous system, we've heard this term sometimes before, possibly. We've heard of fight or flight and rest and digest. So the fight or flight is our sympathetic nervous system, and the rest and digest is our parasympathetic. So when our sympathetic system is geared up, we are releasing all types of inflammatory modulators, substance P, our cortisol and our adrenals is going. We're getting ready to fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn, all these different things. When we're ill, our nervous system is a little bit ramped up as well, just because it's trying to fight something off. And just stress in general, everybody has stress, but if we don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, we don't see, we're going to have a break here, then stress becomes chronic. And that system, that sympathetic nervous system, is constantly going, constantly pushing out adrenaline when we don't need it. And that wears your body out after a while. We want it to come on and, like the lion attacking something and the prey running, we want it to come on to aid us. But when it never turns off and doesn't go to that rest and digest to help replenish everything, that's when our immune system starts to become affected. That's when our inflammatory responses in our body become affected, because there's never a time to rest and replenish all of those systems.
I want to better understand and I love the picture that you have. You ingest a virus, gets into your circulatory system, then it makes its way into the lymphatic system. When you have a virus, cold, some kind of sickness, what's the function of, at that time, the lymphatic system? What's it got going on there? What's it flushing out? What is it moving? What's moving through our bodies at that time?
Well, as previously mentioned, what the lymphatic system does is picks up molds, viruses, bacteria, metabolic waste. Often people call some of the things toxins. And at different times, there will be actual toxins. But sticking to metabolic waste in general, as well as the viruses and bacteria we talked about, the capillaries, the precollectors, the vessels, the trunks all take this to the lymph nodes. And the lymph nodes are the piece of the lymphatic system that contain white blood cells and then complete modulators for our immune system. And modulators, I mean something that helps to boost our immune system, along with the spleen, along with the appendix, along with the lungs, along with all of the lymph nodes that are located, a lot of them in the neck and head, right above the clavicles, the abdominal area. And so that's what they do. And the lymph nodes are aided by how thick or how viscous or not the lymphatic fluid is. So if you're well hydrated, if you have an illness such as something with vomiting and diarrhea, you're going to be very dehydrated, and so your lymph system is going to be working even harder in those instances. So being hydrated, we talked last time about also having proper mineralization of that hydration. So you're not just doing water all the time. You're also making sure that you have enough salt or electrolytes. And you're also talking to your doctor about that if you have any vascular issues that require you to cut salt. So you don't want to just start adding salt to your diet. But yeah, this is what the lymph system does. It helps to move waste products as well as boost the immune system.
Is there any truth to, when you're sick, you feel like you're getting sick, drink a lot more fluids? Not to the point where it's excessive, or dangerous, but just say up your fluids, because you can potentially flush things out of your body. Maybe the illness might last less time. Is that even possible?
The only thing that I would say about that is, first of all, if you're vomiting, you're not going to drink more fluids.
Okay.
And
Fair
some
enough.
people get so sick that they have to go. Yeah, they have to have IVs and that type of thing. Certainly being well hydrated can be helpful. And as I mentioned before, with certain pathologies, congestive heart failure, things where your body has difficulty through the vascular system and the venous system getting rid of fluids, we don't want to push more fluids on the system. So there are some nuances around that. And it's not as one might imagine that we are just drinking water in and it is just going like a culvert and washing things out. There are a lot of steps that have to go on before that happens. If you have any challenges with kidney or renal disease, that can affect the way that your body processes fluids. And that's one of the ways that our body gets rid of the stuff that's thrown off by the lymphatic system. When it goes back to the heart and goes back to the circulation, it goes through the kidneys and the liver. And if those are compromised at all, just by general health, it can be difficult to throw off that fluid or eliminate that fluid. So it's a little more complex than that. I'm always hesitant to give a general, broad drink a lot of water, and this is what's going to happen when you're sick. There are a lot of nuances, but generally we want to stay well hydrated, and the body depends on
Mm.
hydration for so many things, for the lymphatic system, the muscular system, the vascular system, the nervous system, all of that.
What else can you tell us about the nervous system and the connection to the lymphatic system?
Well, again, as I mentioned, if we have chronic stress, we had spoken one of the times about edema, lipedema, and lymphedema. And especially there's
Mm.
more and more anecdotal and starting to have a little bit of research with lipedema, which is a disease of fat and connective tissue, along with some lymph, is that it's a multi-pronged approach to treating that. And one of the biggest things is addressing how we handle stress, addressing past trauma, and how that might be affecting what we hold in our body. And there's more and more mind-body science and therapies that look at how our nervous system is affected by, again, constantly being in that fight or flight mode and having difficulty with releasing fluid and with um, uh, having all those systems work in a way that helps things flow. And again, it's a multi-pronged approach between compression, manual lymphatic drainage, looking at diet, all of these things. We tend to want to look for a quick fix, but it is something that, like we talked about last time, vibration plates. And I was just talking to a client about that this
Mm.
morning. Vibration plates are great. They're really good for vascular things and a little bit for lymph, but you want to make sure that your lymph nodes are open before you get on those vibration plates. So doing what, we talked about the big six and opening up the big six lymph nodes. Um, that those are things that will affect the flow of lymph in the body along with the nervous system. So if we're always on this fight or flight, our muscles are going to be tight, our whole system is going to be tight, and that's going to prevent flow of blood. The blood pressure is going to go up. It's going to prevent proper flow of all the fluids in our body, and those electrical and chemical system, signals that come from the nervous system are also going to be affected because they're either going to be putting too much of the chemical out, too much calcium, too much potassium, which helps to open up the muscular channels for contraction, or they're going to be putting out too little. So there's that sweet spot that we want to look for. But it contributes to inflammation overall, and then the lymph system has to work harder.
What's interesting is when we're stressed out, or if it's chronic, we're just dealing with it on a regular basis. Many times we become used to it. We don't. That's the norm. That becomes a new norm.
Completely.
And you don't realize what's at stake, what's actually going on. Like, ask 100 people, hey, if you got stress, you realize it's going to compromise your lymphatic system. I bet you maybe 3 people would say, oh, yeah, I knew that. I'm sure many people don't.
Well, it's so true. And as you say, even with massage therapy, somebody who's not had a massage before or not had one in a while, the comment I get is that, oh my God, I didn't realize how tight I was. You stay in this perpetual state of being on alert, and you don't realize that that's you all the time. And I have had people with just lymphatic drainage and with massage therapy, I come back in and they're crying, and I say, what is going on? Oh my God, I didn't realize how much I was holding in my body, how much tension, how much I was holding my shoulders up like earrings. And so the nervous system drives everything. And so without getting the nervous system on board, and that also applies to people who come to any therapist, the nervous system has to feel safe and trusting of what I'm doing. So if a person comes in and they've been, I know I've kind of driven into the ground the things that go on in Miami with lymphatic drainage or lymphatic massage, but I have people who come in here who have been hurt, or really they've been very rough with them, and they are terrified to have anything. So it's a re-education. But the nervous system, without that being on board with anything, the body is not going to take it in as well as it would have, had you been in that rest and digest state.
Wow. It's an eye opener that, these are the things that aren't really discussed. The lymphatic system. Well, let me ask you this question because I've heard this before. I've been told not to say that it removes toxins from your body. It's waste. Does it also remove toxins? Is that an accurate statement?
If you have toxins in your body. So, it depends on, we have to kind of go to what is the definition of a toxin. So typically a toxin is a foreign substance and or something in your own body that is built up to a toxic level. But most people have metabolic waste, not toxins. A snake bite would be toxins, chemo would be toxins. Somebody who is, again, having problems eliminating lymph, things might build up to a toxic level. But I think it's a really overused term. And that's why I kind of shy away from it unless somebody has actually been through chemo or one of those types of things.
Okay,
it's not inaccurate, but it's overused.
So those, we're talking about legit high level stuff here. Chemo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. Your body is receiving a toxin. That's
right.
Really what
and
it
that's
is.
What saves a lot of people's lives.
Exactly.
It's bringing you to that edge. And lactic acid is often noted as a toxin. And again, as I've mentioned before, it actually goes back into the cycle that we use for energy, the Krebs cycle, and the cycles that we use for ATP and all these different things to be used as energy. And if a person's system is really efficient, they're a high level athlete, they actually use that. But again, lactic acid for a long time in my profession has been used like, oh, well, you're sore from the massage yesterday because I worked out a bunch of lactic acid. And that's BS. That's not true. That's been proven. That's been proven with research.
I've heard that so many times over decades. Wow.
It's still being propagated, even in the lymphatic world and in the yoga world and in the medical world. It's still being propagated.
If you didn't get a lymphatic massage, but you got a decent regular massage, is it safe to assume that, and again, the regular massage is going to be harder than what we've talked about, lymphatic massages, a softer touch.
Mm-hmm.
Is it reasonable to think that with the regular massage, there is going to be movement within the lymphatic system just by the byproduct of you getting a regular massage anyway? Not the same. Now, I'm not even suggesting that, but just in general.
Mm-hmm. No, correct. And, it's going back to lactic acid and lymph movement. If you're getting a very, very deep massage, which is much deeper than you should be getting, you probably will be sore because of the lactic acid. There's absolutely been studies that show that the body retains lactic acid if you work too deeply. But yes, there is movement. Also, exercise helps move lymphatic fluid. Deep breathing, as we've talked about before, even if somebody is in a hospital bed and they can't do much else but really do some deep belly breaths, that really stimulates the lymphatics in the abdomen, which there are many. So, wow. Yeah, a regular massage. Plus, we go back to the nervous system. If a massage lets your nervous system let down, then all your systems are going to be more efficient.
Your passion for this is off the charts. Like yeah, and even if it wasn't this, your passion for something, it happens to be this. I'm honestly, I praise you. It's amazing. Like you know it, you want to share it. Are you still blown away to the day when you find something else, like a little nugget of information, like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. Okay. Are you still learning? Are you?
Oh my God, let's hope so. Yeah. I mean, I tell my students, I know this much in an ocean, like the little end of my finger, and that shrinks every year. The minute you think you know it all, and I know a dot of everything, you cannot possibly, and you're never bored in this profession. Gotcha. So I eat it up. Like I mentioned to you, I did 135-hour training recently, and I was just 10 hours a day of the 9 days we were there. I was completely into it. So that's my little OCD, is learning about the body.
That's a beautiful thing, and if it wasn't about that, whatever we have a passion for, to learn more. And I think it was Sir Isaac Newton said, what we don't know is an ocean, what we know is a drop.
That's right. That's right. No, it's very true. It's very true.
I guess you have a problem if you think you know everything.
Oh, well, then you're dead in the water, literally. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're not open to learning new things, I tell my students that, and I try to keep that in my, you know, new learner student mind always open.
Can you tell
Because the
us
minute
about
you
that?
think you know something, new research is going to prove you wrong. Say that
Student
again.
Students. So you practice
Yeah.
massage. You've been learning about this. You've been teaching it as well. Tell us about the student end of it. Your teaching side.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have students all the way from 18 years old to 70 years old. So not only do we have to work with different generations and their attitudes towards learning and their experiences, but we're also dealing with different life experience amounts. And really, in this profession, it helps if you have more life experience and you have had some injuries and you have had things so that you can
Mm.
relate to people. The biggest part of teaching for me is not disseminating the information, it's classroom management. And when I have a class that is turned on and passionate, I've had the last few cohorts I've had are awesome. The one I'm teaching now is great. But when you have a student cohort that is really turned on and asks good questions, I don't care what the PowerPoint says. I want to go with what the questions are. I'm teaching ethics right now. And so they're doing their 5 4-hour classes of ethics. So yeah, I love the teaching. I always learn something. I always look at something in a different way. And I think that's really important. Otherwise, I would be bored.
Mm. I don't think you're ever bored. I don't think you're ever bored. Um,
Unfortunately, no.
yeah, and honestly, I'm the same way. Like, I was on the phone with somebody yesterday. Yeah, I'm home. But the person who's sick. I was like, I'm bored. I don't know. And I'm thinking to myself, if I was homesick, I wouldn't be bored, man. I'd be getting stuff done, even though, be at a slower pace because you might not feel as well. But I was like, all right, I can read that. I can listen to that. I can lie back and, an audiobook or something. Like I've always got something going on. Never bored. Like never.
It's a choice. My husband just retired from being a horse farmer last year, and a friend asked recently, how's retirement going? He said, well, I'm kind of bored. And they said, well, that's on you.
Mm, true.
Because it's a choice and it's also personality. And also he took care of his mom for 8 years in a 147 acre farm. So he gets a little grace.
I need to share with you, and this is definite digression. We got like 30 seconds left.
Sure.
I have an affinity for horses, and I don't know what it is. I met one on vacation last year.
I
It was
remember
in
you
a
talking
field.
about that.
And
Yeah.
then today I'm listening to a song, has nothing to do with horses. And I look down at the album cover on my playlist, and that album has a horse. It was a drawing. But horses keep coming up all the time to the point where I'm feeling like I need to just call a stable. Hi, my name is Steve. I want to be next to a horse. That's it. I don't need to ride it or whatever. And then you just mentioned it just now again, like your
You
husband.
can volunteer for hippotherapy places for sure. And this is the year of the fire horse. So maybe this is your
Yes.
year to get involved in horses.
And then there's that. And then you just brought it randomly up, your husband being a horse farmer. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
There are no
Breadcrumbs.
coincidences.
There are no
Yeah.
coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
your website. Please share it. I know that you're in Lexington, and that's where you got to go if you want lymphatic massage by you. But if somebody's got questions, maybe it's a career path for them, and they're wondering, how do they connect with you?
Sure. They can, our website is boonemassagetherapy.com, BooneMassagetherapy.com. Or they can call at 859-209-9005. That's 859-209-9005. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or guide someone who's looking for a therapist in another city.
Beautiful. And
or
thank you.
state.
Thank you so much for the insight and your passion. I truly appreciate it. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Thank you, Steve. Take care.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.